A video game developer is a software developer that specializes in video game development, the process and related disciplines of creating video games. A game developer can range from one person who undertakes all tasks to a large business with employee responsibilities split between individual disciplines such as programming, design, art, testing, and etc. Most game development companies have a video game publisher, financial, and usually marketing support. Self-funded developers are also known as independent or indie developers and usually make independent video games. Independent games usually shouldn't be expected as high quality such as big AAA titles because the development team and the budget tends to be a lot smaller. Despite that, some indie games such as Cuphead, Faster Than Light, and Hollow Knight manage to reach that standard. But regardless of quality, no indie developer, be it professional or amateur, is supposed to be immune to negative criticism, especially if that game is beyond sold for real money and sold on major platforms like Steam. Welcome to Lunar Spawn Serenata, and in this video, I will be sharing my list of independent video game developers who are capable of accepting any forms of criticism.
One day, game developers will learn that deleting negative feedback, trying to quash criticism, or otherwise attempting to silence people who don't like their games never works.
These were the words said by a YouTuber under the name of Jim Sterling, who was known for his reviews and critiques in video games. An example of his words definitely defines the consequences of the actions done by an indie developing company known as Killing Day Studio and their video game, Earth Year 2066, which was one of the projects that Jim Sterling has also made a review out of. Earth Year 2066 was basically a first-person science fiction apocalyptic open-world game inspired by Half-Life and Fallout. Not much information of the game is known about it. There's no story in the game, which would be no problem if the gameplay wasn't an atrocity itself. When players got their hands on the game for $20, they would discover multiple bugs and lag, extremely loud sound effects, and almost unplayable tech demo. Like literally, there was nothing you could do other than to wander around aimlessly in a very small map with some robot enemies. It's easy to mistake this as an alpha. To make matters worse, the developer was caught asset flipping and utilizing most of the assets and art without the consent of the creators. Did I have to remind you that this game was worth $20? I would wonder if I could get my refund out of what looks like a scam game. Well, considering that it is, I highly doubt I will, especially if they really can't take the reactions coming to them. Why? Because the second the developers noticed the negative feedbacks and complaints, they immediately deleted them. They even went as far as to eventually wiping out all discussions and renaming their forums as the Troll Tavern. The game was later removed from Steam on May 16, 2014, almost 2 months after its release. Day One Gary's Incident is a 2013 PC survival game developed and published by Wild Games Studio. The game was released on September 25, 2013. The game centers around Gary Friedman, a middle-aged British pilot. In the game, Gary's wife and daughter were recently killed in an accident. Depressed by the death of his family members, Gary begins drinking heavily and accepting dangerous assignments. While he's transporting cargo from a research facility in Yellowstone National Park, the Yellowstone caldera erupts, causing him to lose control of the plane. An artifact in the cargo causes him to be transported into the Amazon rainforest, where he discovers an ancient civilization and struggles to survive. While the game has a cool soundtrack and decent graphics, the game suffers horribly from a weak and shitty story, poor laughable animations, bad sound effects, a lot of glitches and bugs, invisible walls, the voice acting, and bad texture popping. The game is famous for its DMCA takedown abuse controversies, when John Bain, a YouTuber under the name of Total Biscuit, known for his review and commentary on video games, may God rest his soul in peace, created a criticism centering on this game, which was negative mind you.
What a goddamn mess. Avoid at all costs. This is the definition of terrible.
Wild Games Studios wasted no time in filing a DMCA takedown of his video. They argued that he had no rights to record his gameplay or even make an ad revenue of the footage at all costs, eventually resulting to the takedown succession eventually. Total Biscuit immediately responded to this and within 3 days had about 2 million views because of this. Steam users and professional reviewers pointed out nearly all online video game reviews are funded by advertising and feature game content. Even critics said that no one else had a similar notice despite sharing a similar opinion to Total Biscuit. Still not convinced that they were offended by Total Biscuit's opinions on the game? Well, let's also explore how they were posting fake reviews on Metacritic to increase the game's average review rating. As critics were quick to that a large number of recently created and never updated accounts gave the game positive reviews. Even though the developers somewhat apologized and removed the complaint, the damage was already done. The game was removed on March 2018 and has become the most recognized for all the wrong reasons. Now this is one of those bizarre stories about not handling negative criticism and silencing the haters. And of course I have to drag back Jim Sterling's name in it, basically because he plays a really big role in this one. Allow me to explain. Digital Homicide was an independent game development studio run by brothers James and Robert Rahman. With a good list of games, I can't even count how many they made. The company was known for their sock puppetry and asset flipping without any effort in doing original edits in their games for the sake of making a quick buck. But the most thing they're infamously known for was their part in a beef with Jim Sterling and how it resulted to the rise of their horrible reputation. Jim Sterling discovered one of their games, known as The Slaughtering Grounds, and made a first impression gameplay of it. It was pretty negative as he subtitled the review as the worst game of 2014 contender. Digital Homicide lost it. They made a channel on their own video known as Reviewed the Reviewer for the sake of responding to Jim Sterling. They basically have used his video and added commentary text over it.
Let this play and drink coffee, have a nice morning, but this is too good. What I'm going to do now is run around aimlessly since I haven't made any attempt to actually figure out the game thus far. I will be sure to blame the developer and Steam for my failure in taking the time to evaluate the game before I review it. Why do you say? Because I'm Jim fucking Sterling's son. I'll have a bit of my morning coffee now. It's so angry. Not even time for punctuation. No apostrophe in I'm at the bottom. It's just im.
They mistaken his first impression for a review. They called him an idiot.
Try again, what the fuck? I mean, even a complete idiot would have noticed if there was a large black quest box in the upper left-hand corner. Oh, you mean they aren't covered in your fucking shitty blood effects? I spent hours of detailed work on this review, so I would know. I spent 10 minutes on this first impressions video.
They dropped a lot of F-bombs that you could fit into one video.
I'm Jim fucking Sterling and I deliver accurate reviews. It's not a review! I told you I would tell you the bug of the landmines work, and you can depend on me providing you with more useless shit reviews in the video.
Blamed him for not turning off the music.
Unbelievable. Let's continue recording the music in-game even though it can be toggled in the menu system. It's my fault! It's all my fault! This is mine! I put the music in there, so it's my fault. I'm supposed to... This will allow us to miss the cargo plane drop you can hear happening.
Blame him for not solving the bugs and lack of ammo.
They are calling me a fucking idiot again. This... like a fucking moron and complain about not having any ammo.
And the list goes on and on. They can show you how well they could take on the heat. When Jim made a response video to their response video, they did the same thing except they kept the audio and replaced the video with just plain text with a black background responding to him, still calling him an idiot while they were at it, all while defending their game and themselves at the process. And after another response from Jim Sterling, they finally decided to abuse the DMCA takedown policy. It finally got to the point where the Rahman brothers challenged him to a live debate to settle the score and clear the air once and for all. But it only got worse from them there.
Middle of a little bit of an experiment. I'm trying to create a race of subhuman creatures who are subservient and just about capable of taking simple orders and demolishing certain public places.
That pretty much sums up exactly what it is. It is so accurate about what you do.
That's your smoking gun.
No.
Your smoking gun is a joke about me creating a race of creatures.
There has been 10 smoking guns.
Me parodying science fiction tropes is your evidence I tell people I need them to go and attack people like you.
That's what you do. That is what you do, and you get off on the attacking of people. Whatever happened to that, what was it, Poxel Z guy? I found it so humorous that you banned him and deleted his comment and was upset that he was harassing you. What is it you described you've been doing for the past 9 months to me?
I do not do anything to you. I cover your games, and I actually condemn harassment.
You condemn harassment, but
Absolutely. I'm not a big fan of harassment.
There are thousands of games that have been released on Steam, but you have managed to do a video on every single one of my games. You don't think that qualifies as harassment?
I don't know. I'd be interested in...
It's good to live in denial.
Let's not forget that when there was kind of a dip in me covering your stuff. I had mentioned you for a while, and then you brought up the whole Steam trading card thing and did that funny little Unity asset with the Russian roulette pose, and that seemed to suggest that you wanted this to continue.
Because on March 16, 2016, they took all of their salty behavior and animosity towards this guy into an extreme level of high. And by that, I mean, like, they literally sued this man for defamation, verbal assault, and libel, seeking out $10 million in damages. We wouldn't be calling them the Super Saiyan Salt Infinity had it been for the fact that Jim wasn't the only person they were trying to sue for defamation either. This is because they did the same threats to 100 Steam users as well. Eventually, they will come to the realization of how badly they fucked up once they filed a lawsuit against Valve, because once they did that, Valve banned their asses on the spot, thus purging all of their games from Steam. The company shut down on October 2016, along with the lawsuits being dropped. The brothers seemingly have made a new company under the name of Loot Toot Games a while later, and somewhat throws jabs at Jim Sterling since they hold a grudge against him for ruining their company. But here's the hoping that they would have learned their lesson in this current timeline, because even if they don't, there will still be a prime example of the consequences of your behaviors when it comes to reacting to constructive criticism. Killjoy Games was a game developer which was known for the infamous game Air Control, a flight simulator game created with the Unity 5 engine for the PC console. The game is set with a total of 4 modes. The first casual mode has you playing as a flight attendant doing a series of increasingly weird tasks in order for a human, dwarf, and zombie airline leaders to meet up at a campfire to plan a war. The second casual mode, you get sent to a plane where there are surgeons and organs lying around. After this, you warp to another double-deck plane and must shoot another terrorist trying to hijack the plane. The rest of this mode has you doing more tasks before you warp into the next plane. The realistic mode, all you get to do on the plane is hear audio stolen from Delta Airlines, lock the doors, walk around it, and stare at the petrified-looking passengers. Eventually, you get to actually control the plane to a destination. In Killjoy mode, you begin the game already controlling the plane to a destination. What was supposed to happen after this is unknown, since the game will crash if you manage to reach to the destination. Long story short, it's trash from the summaries of the story alone. And the reason why I say this is because at least try to put some damn effort into this game. Because I've seen Blueprint-made indie games that do a better job than this one. I mean, like, the plane on the title scene is underwater. The UI is poorly designed and programmed, there's no save progress, the grammar makes you want to do something else with your time, like play Mario Party. And the worst part about this was the game is infested with bugs that can eventually break the game's mechanics and camera movement. You'll be able to finish the whole game within 30 minutes if you're lucky enough to have it prevented from breaking. This shit was $6, by the way. They didn't fix any bugs. They placed the stuff here and there, posted the game on Steam, and then slapped the price tag in it. Then the developer had the extreme audacity to blame the customer, talking about oh, it's not my fault you didn't play at 1920x 180p. Sorry. Like any Unity game, is compatible for even modern and classic day PCs, and this game is no exception. Another scam game, which not only got removed from Steam later on due to excessive backlash, but is also considered the worst game ever on Steam, as quoted by Fantasio 974. Don't think they haven't changed one bit either, because they recently made Zen Fish Sim. If you end up playing it, you'll realize that they still haven't learned their lesson when it comes to sloth development. I don't know what's worse, Killjoy's game's Air Control, or its even uglier twin cousin, Airport Master, created by Stickly Games. This game itself looks like it could be basically a chore to do for your job as an office lad or office lady, and that's just my opinion. I don't know much details about the gameplay, and sadly I will not be able to. All I know is that it's boring. Period. And for the sake of protecting myself from a strike, I also cannot publish most of the screenshots of this game either. Why? Because when they released the game on February 17, 2017, they immediately planted an end-user's license agreement on it. It's a legal contract entered into between a software developer or vendor and the user of the software. Often when the software has been purchased by the user from an intermediary such as a retailer, a EULA specifies in detail the rights and restrictions which apply to the use of the software. What that means is that it's kind of like the terms of service rule that you see most of the time, but you don't even read it through all of that shit because don't nobody got time for that. So what rule was in the EULA? The rules in this EULA that they planted is the rule that forbids the gamer to make a let's play out of this game and even prevents them from demanding a refund if they don't like it. It's like they knew their game was trash and wanted to keep the money they made out of it regardless. On the bright side, none of this happened much enough to be considered worse than Killjoy games, because not much happened when they tried to pull the trademark violation claim on Sterling. Safe to say, it failed on them. Attention all video game developers. If you're looking to make minor identity representation theme on your games, please try not to take the SJW alt-right or alt-left propaganda way, okay? And please stop shitting people on Twitter. We already have these type of clowns in the DMC reboot, Hollywood, and Funimation. We don't need any more extra sore losers in the making around here. But alas, there's this development company, Tale of Tales. And of course it has something to do with my own ethical background. Tale of Tales is the creator of Sunset. This game was published worldwide on May 21st, 2015 in Belgium for the platforms of Microsoft Windows PC, Mac OS, and Linux. It was funded through Kickstarter and ran for a good month. It raised over $67,000, surpassing their original $25,000 goal. It's about an African-American maid hired to work at a bachelor pad in the fictional country of Anchuria, performing numerous housekeeping tasks an hour before sunset. As she performs her task, the player finds out more about the civil war and the dictator that currently leads Anchuria. As time goes by, changes occur both within the house and in the city, which Angela can see through the windows. The theme of this whole game is presented as a propaganda representative, basically the woke culture. And honestly, I'm getting fed up with these type of themes in this media because it always spreads negativity rather than positivity. And I sure as hell am not the only one to think of that too. Despite the positive reception from IGN and other critics, the audience reception was pretty negative. The game was a commercial failure, only selling about 4,000 copies as of June 2015. Milo Yiannopoulos, forgive me if I pronounced that name wrong, claimed that the game was pretentious, hipster, progressive, and cliche, let alone hardly playable. But don't tell that to the indie company because you'll make them throw a tantrum like a baby. Oh, wait, that's exactly what happened. One of the developers had a complete field day on Twitter. Reminds you of that angry black woman you see in the ghetto on a daily basis. And I say this from experience. They at first tried to claim that they were wrong on the blogs, but went complete psycho mode on Twitter in 3 seconds, crying about why their game commercially failed, claiming the audience didn't care about gender and race, wishing half of the audience death, swearing like a sailor, and every insult in the book. It's just ridiculous. All of this resulted to the company being short-lived, and honestly, this developer is the reason why society these days can't really trust us black women to be involved in the video game development industry in general. Brianna Wu is basically just like Anita Sarkeesian, except she's literally a video game developer who shits on Gamergate and is known for her rational deception and always hates it when she's wrong. Basically wanted to shove female agenda down other people's throats and complain about other media for lacking diversity. What you didn't know was about her game itself and the studio she's somewhat of a CEO of. Revolution 60 was made by Giant Space Cat Studios for mobile and PC platforms and published between July 2014 and August 2016. Don't ask me for the plot because it's very confusing, let alone the models of these characters are 10 times scarier than Barbie, hello. The game has a female superiority complex theme, and obviously Steam was not messing with it either. Only Metacritic, who gave it a score of like 73, but the reaction was pretty obvious since, hello, it's Brianna Wu. This man is a theft and a fraud. Do not consider him as a video game developer. He literally stole a ripoff of Banjo-Kazooie, slapped his own title in the game, replacing it with its real title and calling it his game. All you need to know. Ultimate Arena is a competitive first-person shooter arena game developed by Kenneth Caselli and Gianmarco Rocco and released on September 5th, 2016. From some information I gathered about this game, it happens to be a game where you compete against other players online to prove their worth, wielding a loadout of 12 brutal weapons and wreaking total havoc within the arenas. In here, you can control health, armor, and weapon pickups throughout the map to gain advantage against your foes. But here's a review that sums up the overall gameplay that I will be adding on sporadic eye quotes of what turns out to be one of his audience under the name of the Matty XZ. According to his review on SteamCommunity.com, the game is downright awful.
While I hold my laughter, let me tell you that half of the weapons are absolutely useless. The lightning gun emits a weak, pathetic laser that barely hits, the pistol looks like a toy and deals little to no damage, the main shotgun is way too weak, and the cymbal saw thingies are a good idea but not really well implemented, since the bouncing of walls is broken and the projectiles rarely hit the player. The coders are incompetent, the game is a train wreck and I don't expect this to go anywhere, as I've seen it fail once already.
I actually tried to look for this reviewer on YouTube to see what he's all about, and... oh. 440? Did he get removed? I wonder what happened. Well, there is another reviewer who goes under the name of the NG Guy who also gave a negative reception of this game. While the Matty XZ had the game for free because it was the first version, this guy had to buy it for 20 euros because they made the second version. He basically said that the price was the only problem in the second version. Otherwise, the game was weird but neutral to say the least. But in an edit, he found some interesting information about the developer's reaction to the criticism given to them by their audience. Those who dare to give constructive criticism on their game in the discussions or even in streams will find themselves banned on the spot. It also counts as a ban if you kill the developer in the game. Butthurt much? But to make matters worse, Kenneth Caselli, one of the developers, decided it'd be a boss idea to pretend that he and another YouTuber named Zeb89 were far from the same person. But what gives it away? The fact that he uses his channel to sponsor the game. The positive reception in general comes from his younger fans. I have a theory that this is the reason why Matty's channel got taken down, because Zeb89 has turned out to have also attacked the channels that have criticized his game, flagging down their videos and even insulting them in the comment sections. The game is still said to be active, but not everybody has played it like they used to. But the reaction from this developer just screams man-child. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 3 to 4 years since then, and hopefully Zeb89 has become a better person. And so, once again, we made a scam game. This time, it's called Journey of the Light, created by Lord Crest on May 22nd, 2015. His words, not mine. The game was supposed to be the hardest puzzle game ever and would have 7 chapters. Too bad nothing much is known about the story. Hell, the only thing you can do is wander around the game aimlessly. No proceeding to the next mission, no item collecting, nothing. If you play this game, you'll find out that within a heartbeat that this game is nothing more than just some regular lame scam. And the moment you tear his ass a new one, he'll try to manipulate you, giving you hints that are likely little to no help. One time he claimed that a bug fix eliminated the other chapters and that he'll try to patch them back up at a later date.
So when is that later date?
Oh, wait, nope. It's non-existent. Not only did he refuse to refund the audience, but Valve saw through the scam and immediately removed it from Steam. Scamming and deceiving your audience is the last thing you would want to do. Just like Dallas Review. If there's one thing society hates the most more than scam developers, it's developers who fake a deadly illness to attract its audience. This developer is the prime example. This developer, who goes under the name of WTF OM Games, had created a video game called That Bastard Is Trying to Steal Our Gold. It's a shovelware game that has like zero story and more bugs and problems in it. Like, the enemies hardly have any moving animations or AI. And you may be asking me, what do you mean by faking an illness? Well, according to his description of the game, it turns out that this developer has claimed to be suffering from brain cancer. It's too expensive for doctors to treat it, and he wants to make this game as a form of donation. So it's literally to gather sympathy. Want to know why I don't believe him? Well, if you try to criticize or bash his game, he'll threaten to give you syphilis and gonorrhea, claiming that he has that too. Like, what the hell is wrong with him? Honestly, there are people around the world who suffer from fatal illnesses every day, and for him to use that as an advantage to get people to do something for him, like buying his game, that's just going too far. Now, I read that he was making better games despite his toxicity, but let's hope so, because this is one of those moments that you're gonna wish you buried to the fiery pits and pray it doesn't affect your future like how cancel culture did to other careers. Say, you wanna know a developer that's considered worse than that of digital homicide? Try Silicon Echo Studios, a so-called game developer who has made over 170 asset-flipped games on Steam at once. At least Digital Homicide put at least 20% of the care in editing some of their games to at least look somewhat original, whereas this developer didn't even do any effort at all. They also have used countless sock puppet accounts to get around Steam's direct, already non-existent restrictions. And you know they would have gotten away with it had it not been for the fact that Valve easily caught wind of their actions. Because as soon as you're caught by Valve doing this type of stuff, you could say goodbye to Steam. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG for short, is a multiplayer online battle royale game developed and published by Bluehole on December 12, 2017. An Xbox One port was developed by Aticio and released on the Xbox Game Preview as Game Preview Edition. Now, unlike the other projects made by developers in this list, this indie game is pretty much successful. So why is Bluehole on this list? Keep in mind that just because your game or work is successful doesn't automatically equate to your ego or behavior. And sadly, as good as his work was, let's just say he let his ego get the best of him. After the game had a popular following, it seems like the developers stopped trying to make uploads and fixes on it. Let alone it was overpriced, and to add insult to injury, the mobile version? It's got the better fixes because more people use that to play the game since that version turned out to be free. And that's the smallest problem. But the real problem comes in play when Bluehole randomly attacks the developers of other Battle Royale type games, accusing them of ripping off his game. Doing as far as attempting to take legal action against any game that even has the same genre as his game. And for the life of me, I don't understand why this guy would even try. The Battle Royale genre traces back to as far as custom modes in Minecraft based on the book series The Hunger Games, which was inspired by a Japanese novel literally named Battle Royale. Sadly, the game has slowly declined in popularity as 50% of the people who had the game just stopped playing. So more of the story? Do not try to claim a genre that is obviously not yours. And try to add some fixes and updates to the game while you're at it. Otherwise, people, while they like your work, are gonna be more or less appalled by your behavior.
Excuse me, just want to ask you something really quick.
I'm busy. First of all,
That That failed because you made it too easy for her to just walk past you and brush you off. Too close, to the side. It means that she will likely do that as a reflex, like 90% of the time.
For a second, I thought the developer was a good person, especially since the flirting tutorial-like game like Super Seducer seems pretty interesting and something that you can actually take as a learning method. But the day I learned that he called a negative review video a diss video would be the very moment he would kinda lose me from there. Super Seducer is an indie trivial type flirting seduction simulator game created by Richard LaRuina for the PC on March 6, 2018. It's a game that puts you in everyday scenarios on how you can be able to win yourself a lover the second your eyes meet a certain attractive person, mainly a woman. The game alone is decent in my opinion, but don't judge me. I'm a single female, so I don't know how taking advice from this game will work out for me when it comes to hooking up dudes. Then again, I Am Patty Jack will tell me that this will be the worst idea if I try such attempts because, well, it's like he said, if you attempt any of these, you'll come across as a weirdo.
Patty dating tip number 1. If you stop a girl on the sidewalk when she's obviously going somewhere, you're probably a weirdo. Patty dating tip number 2. If you feel the need to sit in a hotel room and record your own dating tips with 2 scantily clad women beside you, you're probably a weirdo. Patty dating tip number 3. If even Piers Morgan thinks you're a dick, you probably need to do some self-reflecting. And Patty dating tip number 4. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Do not treat people like they're objects. If you go out and be yourself and interact with people, eventually you'll find someone who you're interested in and may or may not be interested in you. There's someone out there for everyone. I truly believe that, and if you go out there with the express intent of getting everyone you meet, you're never gonna find that person because everyone's gonna think you're a creepy weirdo.
And that snapped me back to reality to realize he's right. Just be yourself. Don't over-exaggerate to win the person you're attracted to. And if it doesn't work out, then don't worry, there's more attractive people where that came from, right? Well, let's just say Mr. Runa, the love guru, has taken offense to that advice. In fact, he's on the list because of this one beef alone, somewhat similar to that of Digital Homicide Studios. So when I Am Patty Jack made a video about his game which was negative, Richard went in the comments section and responded to his video, hilariously revealing that the room where he tells you if your choice was a good choice or a bad choice is not even a hotel room. Rather, it was his own bedroom. Then he puts his rants to Twitter and starts talking shit about him from there. And of course, a back and forth ensures when I Am Patty Jack had to remind Richard that he sent it to someone who makes the worst game ever series. And with Richard sending him that game opens the gateway to the possibility of I Am Patty Jack actually making a video from that series out of that game. You would think it's just some petty argument between the two that would just subside in a later hour because of how ridiculous it is to be butthurt over a harshly negative review, right? Wrong! This developer decided to do the one thing that will basically hurt his reputation in one click. After someone brings up DMCA takedown to Richard, he ends up using it on I Am Patty Jack as a take that response because, well, I Am Patty Jack tried to warn him against it. Ironically enough, not only did the video's takedown get lifted eventually, but karma came down to Richard LaRuna like an axe as someone from Sony basically caught wind of the beef and didn't want that to represent their game. So they reported it to the company and what do you know? Super Seducer has been cancelled from the PS4 release. This is a message basically saying, say whatever you want, but watch what you say or do, because like the prejudices here in this society, you will not have a fun time as soon as you go back to your job. Alright, this one is very recent, dating back to that of 2 years ago recent. And this is one of the developers that I still follow and support because of the interesting concept that it has so far. For those who do not know who this man is, this is Alex Mahan, formerly known as Eva Zephon, currently known as Yandere Dev, the developer of an upcoming independent video game called Yandere Simulator. Yandere Simulator is a stealth action horror game that is to be developed with the Unity engine for the Microsoft Windows platform. The game centers on a high school girl under the name of Ayano Aishi who comes from a lineage of lovesick psychopaths, falling in love with the upperclassman and going to the extremes of eliminating her targets in order to sabotage his love life and win his heart for herself. Basically, your goal is to eliminate your rival before the 5th day, where they are to confess to your ideal lover. There's supposed to be 8 levels, I believe, and most of them varies on the increasing difficulty. So what's wrong with the developer, you may ask? Well, to put it shortly, this game has been in the development for a good 7 years. And it's only been into 20% completion. That's right, this game isn't even 50% done. Now, normally I wouldn't really mind how long this game would have taken if it weren't for the fact that the developer wasn't goofing around, or if he is, he's not lying about it to keep its popularity. And that's a bad habit for me because I've been giving way too many chances for people to get their shit together. And you know what? So did some of his fans. He at first in his videos was complaining about semi-existent complaints that he gets on a daily basis in his emails, sometimes from his younger fans who are impatient, and I'm not saying he's lying about that. There can be fans that will be very demanding. But as soon as he made that stop sending me emails video, the sooner the audience that are patient with the game's development started to become impatient. And here's where my point of view comes in, because I actually have seen this on the first hand. I started noticing the first sign of trouble when someone from a Yandere Simulator fan club on DeviantArt announced that they were leaving because of his or her reasons. Mainly because of the spaghetti coding and the research that she took upon the making of said game. Yandere Dev found this journal for some reason and responded, and I thought, he's taking it well, basically trying to defuse the situation and even send a link to many complaints that he has had throughout the game's development. Looking back at it, he opened up more questions than that of answers, and some of the cases, he didn't even provide any proof. But that was it. It didn't even escalate into something that was bad on that end. And about a year later, I was met with a video originally created by Rommel, and I found some not so settling information about him and the game. Now let's get to the past, and it'll be very important. I don't really like bringing up people's backstory, but this, you're really gonna see why. Yandere Dev at his youth used to go under the name of Eva Zephon. He made a fanfiction about underage sex slavery and even threw a tirade about his parents' demands and chores, and also had a game he played called Regrettably. Yeah, I know about this game. I'm not even gonna explore that because the game just pisses me off. There was an incident where he literally lashed out at someone who was trashing on a movie, I believe, on Steam, which that attitude will be very important later on. But the reason why I bring up Eva Zephon is because of his very first game he made called Lunar Sight that was supposed to be still in development. You see, he was a big fan of the game Skullgirls, and he once looked up to Mike Z, the video game's developer. One day, he showed the early stages of the game, and it seemed that Mike Z wasn't really impressed. Mike wanted to seize the coding, and this is how the chat logs came out. Mike basically said that the coding was so bad it's gonna have problems in the future. He straight up told him that his code is pretty poor and was trying to give him some advice on how he can improve as a developer. But Eva Zephon took that as like some sort of discouragement. Eventually, not only did Eva Zephon cancel the game's development, but he also started trashing on Mike Z behind his back later on as a response. Now, like I said, I hate bringing up people's past and everything, but this should have never been the case if history wasn't repeating itself. It's been years since then, and Yandere Dev decided to make a video game called Yandere Simulator and had began development in 2014. He was originally supposed to cater this to the 4chan users, and, well, the reception he got from it went out as well as you expected. So now we're in current timeline. As of recently, his code is still randomly terrible and has been giving some problems to the audience who've played his game. There was actually this one YouTuber who criticized his removing of this hilarious mod that inflates your breast, and Yandere Dev came upon his video and he fucking snapped. He also had an offer of teaming up with TinyBuild to boost up the game's development, but because they tried to fix his poor coding, Yandere Dev parted ways with them on the spot. Doesn't make it any better that he's been said to have mistreated his volunteers. It's one thing to not pay them. He has revealed that most of his volunteers will be helping him for free in one video, and it's already bad enough he's promoting the game through Patreon and not using that money to pay them. But for him to say that he won't give credit to or protect your work...
I tried to make a contract with him a couple days after I emailed him the first time about the deal. And he said, "Oh, I'm too busy. Too busy making Yandere Sim." I emailed him rather aggressively, I will admit, telling him that I want to be protected as an artist. And since we had this deal, the gentleman deal is not enough. I want a PDF of a simple contract, a digital contract with terms between us. So sign it and we're both protected if anything goes wrong. For him, his, trademark on the game, because since he's making the game, it's his. And he decided to say, "Okay, you're being rude. You're being aggressive. You're just rude. Deal's off. Just nothing about a contract. Just, oh, you're being rude." And I kept asking him, "Why don't you want to make a contract?" I just want answers. At this point, I'm saying screw it. He already said no deal, so I'm not going to press for an actual contract, but I just want some answers. He kept being around the bush, telling me that I was being rude, don't contact me again. You just have a very twisted view of me.
The response he made when someone wanted out of his project when they discovered information rumoring him of soliciting sex from minors? It's one thing to be flipping purchase assets like the models he's currently using, but the fact that he stole a grass texture asset and put that into his game really tells people about your professionalism in general, Yandere Dev. But the real issue that started the storm? 2 words. Osana Najimi. The very first obstacle of the game that you were supposed to beat. This was what was supposed to be reassured that at least 25 to 50% of the game was supposed to be released, and to this day, she still hasn't been released. Now, not everybody was whining and complaining about her release that much, but they will try to remind Yandere Dev about wondering how Osana's implementation was going so far. He didn't design her as of yet, and we all thought that this character would have been Osana. But after she was redesigned, he slowly started making progress of her. Then it stopped. The second this video came out,
if I put Osana into the game right now, it would not be any fun to eliminate her. It would be exactly like killing Kokona or any other random student in the game.
fans were quick to discover that Yandere Dev changed his excuse as to why she hasn't been worked on or released just yet. And people started doubting the game's release. And after he discovered that people are starting to think that the game will never be released, he decided to make a video called
How long does it take to make a video game? The answer is, it depends on a large number of different factors, such as the genre, the budget, the size of the team, the complexity of the game, whether it's an original game or an imitation, and a bunch of other factors that you probably wouldn't have considered.
The audience lost it. And so began the 3 months of backlash that Yandere Dev had to face. Because of this, Yandere Dev, not taking the criticisms like a champ no more, thought it would be a wise decision to disable comments and silence everything. Even going as far as to blocking people on Discord who has yet to say anything on the Discord server. He was literally asking for it at this rate. Because the game was popular even in sandbox mode, and already you want to pull this? The small amount of people who trashed you then started becoming bigger because of you. You're making your audience turn their backs on you. It's nobody else's fault but yours. Now you've been driven to perform damage control. Like I said, history repeats itself. And it gets worse too. Yandere Dev once said that he has spent a lot of time working on Yandere Simulator and not taking any vacations. Well, if that's the case, why the hell were you on Twitch almost 8 hours a day playing a video game? Why not use that as an opportunity to show the progress of video games Oh, wait, that's right. Twitch and their fucking bullshit. And no, I don't side with Twitch. That fucking site had a history of banning their streamers for no reason. One of the notorious cases, in my opinion, was that of Hood Gaming TV, who got banned because of a friend of the admins demanded it. And people wonder why I left that streaming site. So during a Twitch session where he was playing and remodding the Lisa RPG game to suit his satisfaction, a watcher under the name of Soldout had asked him a question. You see, Yandere Dev answers questions on Twitch to those who donated to his streaming service, and she wondered if there would be a chance where Yandere Dev will be open to answer questions to non-donators. He answered the question from what I remembered, and she moved on. When someone else responded to her question, basically asking, how else is he gonna make money? And she responded, that doesn't excuse the purpose of ignoring the fans. This is how Yandere Dev responded while he banned her.
You're a fucking retard, sold out. Go fucking kill yourself, dumb shit. You're a fucking idiot.
I was one of the few people who found this video she posted and basically shared it to Twitter. She cried non-stop because of this incident. How do I know this without proof? Because Yandere Dev flagged it down, and to add fuel to the fire, he tried to wipe the evidence clean. Hell, he tried to make it seem like it was her fault, saying that she was harassing him and being rude to him. Let's just say my respect for him decreased to 30% that day. So the backlash subsided some time later, and things were dying down for a while. No more BS, no more excuses. It seems like Yandere Dev was spending more time finishing up his game. Right? November 11th, 2018. This bullshit was published on YouTube.
Imagine yourself in the following situation. This is you, and this is every single message you've ever posted to the internet over the course of your entire life. Every forum post, every tweet, etc. Most of these messages are pretty harmless. However, a few of them make you look bad. Some of those messages might be something dumb you said when you were younger and less mature. Some of those messages might be something rude you said when you were in a bad mood. And some of those messages might only look bad without context. These embarrassing messages make up less than 1% of everything you've ever done or said over the course of your life. And none of those messages accurately represent who you really are. However, imagine that someone decides to take all of these embarrassing moments from your past, put them into a list, and show that list to his friends. Then he claims that this list represents you.
Hate and Shame. A video where he 1. Puts himself into a position of a young girl being physically and cybernetically harassed. 2. Claims that he tries to answer critiques in a professional manner and is constantly ignored.
You might try to speak with them and explain that they have the wrong idea about you. You might try to explain that they're developing a false image of who you are. However, when you try to do this, they'll just laugh at you. You see, they don't care at all about getting to know the real you. They want to maintain their twisted perception of you because they're having a lot of fun ridiculing and shaming this image of you that exists in their minds.
3. Calls the Backlashers goblins.
We can't call them trolls because many of them aren't interested in provoking you directly. We can't call them liars because they actually believe all of the ridiculous things they say about you. And when they try to paint a twisted picture of you using cherry-picked information and out-of-context screenshots, they are technically using words you've actually said. And we can't call them critics because they aren't judging you, they are judging a twisted image of you that only exists inside their imaginations. So, what do we call them? Well, during World War II, there was a series of workplace safety posters that featured little creatures called gremlins. Gremlins were depicted sabotaging aircraft and machinery. Because these people are sabotaging your life, we'll call them gremlins for short.
4. Blames him for him being an asshole to some of his audience.
If you are treated like garbage for an extended period of time, it's going to affect your mood. You're going to become stressed out. You're going to become frustrated. You're going to become depressed. Over time, your original personality will melt away and be replaced with an angry and bitter attitude. Anger will cloud your judgment. Sometimes you'll be rude to people. Sometimes you'll lose your temper. Sometimes you'll get caught up in drama. You might find yourself saying nasty things that normally you would never say.
5. Claims that they made a twisted image of him based on his past and that he's a changed person. And finally, says that it's the biggest reason why the projects will never be finished as the Backlash discovers him from having the game be finished.
It's impossible for you to be productive or make progress on your project when you feel like you don't have a future anymore.
I was straight pissed off at him at this rate and internally tore his ass a new one. It's just nothing but excuses, and you're just feeding the sleeping beast just as it was finally gonna rest. And sure as hell, a lot of people agreed with me. Or at least whomever remained, because a majority of the videos during the Backlash were taken down as of recently. Thus the Backlash rose once again, and it got to the point where Yandere Dev's Discord server started becoming flooded with the quick ban challenge later on. Now originally I was going to put a joke saying, people are complaining about Osana, but my biggest concern is, hey yo, how's that snap feature going? But alas, on March 31st, 2020, Yandere Dev ironically finished the filter. So he lucky, because I was going to strike down a really powerful joke on this video. So that's good news. Overall, there are people who are turning against this game. Some think it will never be finished, some would rather this game be cancelled, but me? Yandere Dev, if you happen to come across this video, then let this list be an advice to you. Because I used to take advice from your videos when it comes to game development until this whole Backlash happened. I don't give a damn what you're going through. I do not know you like that, so I really shouldn't give a damn. I've given way too many chances for you to get your shit together. You're a higher level class to game development than I ever will, and I expect you to act like it. I don't care if this game succeeds, and I don't give a shit if this game fails. I just want it done. Finish this game. You've made way too many excuses on why this, that, and the third is not completed, and it's already proof that you spent way too much time looking at your emails, streaming video games for hours, and waiting for your volunteers to finish something so you can find a way to implement it. I'm guessing that's why Osana isn't finished, because clearly you have volunteers doing half of your work for you while you're just putting things together, and I really don't have a problem with that, let's be honest with you. Yes, video game development is hard. It ain't supposed to be easy, whether it be coding or blueprint, and I sure as hell know that neither side is going to be easy. Look at what I'm going through right now. But the fact that you're whining and complaining about it is just making it worse. It is okay to ask for help. While it makes a rarity, it's pretty worth it. While some help comes with a price, like having something that is precious to you, like your story, change for the sake of improvement, which I also disagree on. The least TinyBuild wanted to do was freaking change your horrible coding, and you didn't even want that, and now you lost that assistance. That BS V-Slice video? Yeah, I don't believe that shit either. Yes, a vertical slice is a type of milestone, benchmark, or deadline with the emphasis of demonstrating progress across all components of the project, let alone a video game. But you only see that so-called V-Slice in trailers, alpha test sandboxes, and beta test sandboxes. It's made to introduce a concept, and your game is far from not just a beta, but also a V-Slice game. It's still stuck on less than alpha. It's not that hard to just admit that the game is currently in development hell. I would understand that. Some people have a hard time going through obstacles that keeps them from finishing, and so do I as well. My problem is stress and lack of motivation, and I've admitted that on a daily basis. I don't blame my problems to anybody. Compared to you, where you blame shit on emails and everything, it's not that hard to admit that you're having problems. And I'm saying this because I still support you and your game. I want this game to be done because you have the potential. Tough love indeed coming from me. But my problem is that you're making excuses instead of just admitting that you need help on the game. To me, it's not in V-Slice. It's not even in beta. It's just in development hell. And if you just admit it, my respect for you will definitely increase. Not like you or anybody would give a shit, but you also lost me as a potential volunteer. I made an OC as a minor character for this game and even looked forward to getting a microphone to be a voice actress for this game. But after looking at this, I had to drop the OC and even take a step back into considering about volunteering for you. I do not want you to lose me as a potential consumer for this game, because as soon as you cancel it, I will definitely grow to no longer support you or your work. And this is the exact reason why Yandere Dev is on this list. It's for the reasons that I said before. But like some people on this list, like WTF Forum Games, he has a lot of chances to grow as a developer and a person. I do not want him to quit. I want him to improve. If he wants to shut up the so-called goblins, then like the Green Man Event TV said, prove them wrong. And finally, here we are. And one of the reasons why I came up with this silly list in the first place. The developer that has not much been addressed, but I managed to come upon from a certain YouTuber that I'm a subscriber of. I tried to put some information about him on the Crappy Games Wiki site, but they sadly didn't take me serious. So it was taken down within the first 5 days. So I decided, you know what? I'll use whatever information I got from this developer and the game and start making videos about it myself. Now keep in mind, not everybody had talked about this developer that much. I wanted to add some videos that talked about the aftermath, but not only were his videos gone, but his channel kind of disappeared along with it. So much information I found on that video. So much screenshots. All gone for nothing. To make matters worse, some of the screenshots outside of that video were taken down before I even got a chance to touch them. Anyways, here is some of the information that I was able to save through my hard research of looking through new evidence. Let's get it poppin'. Beast Fury was supposed to be an independent 2D fighting game created by Ryan Stevens, inspired from the likes of Skullgirls, Tekken, and Bloody Roar. Basically furries fighting each other. The game alone looks promising, but it kinda got snubbed by the audiences. Like, this game has had a good total of 5 Indiegogo and Kickstarter campaigns, and almost half of them had failed miserably. Apparently he wasn't using that money to pay for his volunteers either. Well, he was said to have paid them early on, but later on nobody, not even the volunteers, were starting to get paid, presumably because of the lack of funds they were earning. The real ticker was the fact that Ryan was known to reject, abuse, or even burn the bridges to the backing that his game was getting. For instance, not only was his volunteers not getting paid, but only a few people were actually getting paid during the game's development, and they were actually getting paid so little. There was this one voice actor that was trying to get higher payment in order for him to take his trip to Germany, and he ended up having to avoid those plans because of this situation. There was another incident where one of his backers had a disagreement on certain people that were and were not getting paid, and after Ryan threatened him, the backer got him banned from a certain site for a week. Another incident was when the voice actor for the main character demanded pay and ended up getting secretly kicked off the project and immediately replaced. And then later, the same person who replaced him got fired as well for asking the same thing. And then this incident with, wait for it, yes, Mike Z, who I once again have to drag the name back to after the whole Yandere dev thing. Well, Mike Z was also looked up to by Ryan Stevens and was given the gameplay of the sandbox for Beast Fury to check out. Mike Z, like usual, criticized the game and gave him advice to take in the future, and Ryan just took that shit as an actual defense and grew to dislike the Skullgirls developer as well. And the fanbase at the process. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Now you may be wondering how I ended up getting this piece of information and evidence. Well, it comes from the driving point as to how I discovered this game and the developer in the first place. During the making of this video, I was given the heartfelt consent of a fighting game veteran who goes under the name of Rockaway Carter on Twitter. He and I follow a certain YouTuber under the name of Event Status, aka the Main Event TV, on both that site and YouTube. And he will play a very, very big importance later on. But let's talk about this guy because this is where things go out of hand. Now, as you can see in this chat log, Rockaway Carter was discussing about the game and the status on Adam Wong's involvement in the project, an organizer of the furry archive, Furplease, who had a history of sexual misconduct. One day, Rockaway requested to give the game a feel to see how good it was and if it needs improvement, but was automatically rejected. In a video explaining about the situation, Rockaway Carter made a comment about the problems that are going on with the game and how Ryan refused the assistance offered to him. And that was almost a while ago. But then on June 19th, 2015, when Rockaway Carter was making a stream and accepting donations, nobody at all, Ryan Stevens comes in and posted this. Once he did that, the stream ended up exploding, and Ryan found himself trying to beg Rockaway's audience for their money. Main Event TV, who happens to have been in the stream session, left immediately because of this case. And when he and Rockaway discussed about the whole situation, Ryan tried to intervene and the argument got heated up. And it went as well as I predicted.
I don't give a fuck who plugs you. As far as I'm concerned, because of the way you went about this, being a little bitch about this, fuck you, fuck your game, and I sent this to him on Twitter as well. Fuck you, fuck your game, and fuck everyone else who supports you. And you can go tell Max, you can go tell Sonic Fox, you can go tell Justin, you can tell all of them I said that shit. I don't care. The fact is, there was no reason for that. If you support this type of fucking behavior.
It didn't really take long for more audiences to be deterred from the game after this, followed by the mistreatment of those who have supported Ryan's game to the point where on January 2016, the game has met its abrupt and tragic end. Not only did he cancel the game and close down the Fur Affinity account, he also had refused to pay his backers or even refunded the people who have spent money on the Kickstarter and crowdfunding on this game. It was said that he did later on pay his backers as of September 2016, but the damage was done. You should have done that during the production of the game. The reason why he's in this list is because of the similarities to that of Yandere Dev. Once again, if Yandere still happens to bump into this video and still watch it to the very end, like, what are you doing with your life, sir? Why are you trying to make me famous? But if he does come this far, then here's another message. Like Yandere Dev, this guy met his hero and got a negative but constructive criticism and advice. Like Yandere Dev, Ryan grew a disliking towards his hero for his reception. Like Yandere Dev, he treated his volunteers poorly. Only difference is that at least Yandere Dev was paying some of his backers. Like Yandere Dev, he relies on other people to do his work. He can't model for shit, he can't animate for shit. At least Yandere Dev can knows how to code and has admitted to not being an expert on it. And like Yandere Dev, he has an ego problem. He cannot take any forms of criticism lightly and will confront you about it on a daily basis. So Yandere Dev, keep on banning people from your forums who were nothing but respectful towards you. Keep on behaving badly to your audience who have many questions for you or even go as far as to criticizing your work. And keep on insulting the people that have supported you and call them annoying babies. Keep it up. And this is going to be you in the future. All of this just screams familiar in my opinion, because if you keep up with this behavior, you're definitely going to end up canceling your work due to fan backlash. And let me tell you, and I repeat, I do not want this to happen. A man who turns out to have a personality switch and a bad communication problem, burning the bridges to those who have plugged him, insulting the people who criticized him. All of this resulted to the destruction of what could have been a really good fighting game. What a waste of potential. The final person on this list, I guess. And I came a long way to put as many developers as I can on this one video. You may be wondering why I've skipped Zoe Quinn and Phil Fish. Yes, they were originally on this list. Well, as you can see, with Dallas Review, I got a tiny bit personal because of the fact that despite that he treated his audience poorly, he actually just stole a popular video game and claimed it to be created by him. But for Zoe and Phil, it was a little too personal for me. The fact that Zoe used SJW political agenda and got the whole media by her side after receiving negative reception on her game, and then a recent incident where she made allegations to another indie developer to the brink of suicide. And for Phil Fish, it's because, well, I just can't stand people with such a horrid, nasty attitude. But for this developer, some may consider his actions creepy and disturbing. But for me, his actions ended up having me absolutely pissed. This developer is named Limina. He's the developer of this game, Sonic Gather Battle. Sonic Gather Battle. How about Sonic Gather all your information and fuck up your computer and livelihood? This game was a 2009 fan-made game created for the Microsoft Windows platform. The game itself is a fighting game running off the Little Fighter 2 engine. The game seems fun at first. It was updated once in a while here and there, and it wasn't really something you should worry about. Just as long as you stay away from the recent December 2017 update, will ya? Now have fun. If you do touch upon that update, well, you can still have fun, but try not to pull something like hack or mod on Google when you're taking research on this game, especially if you have it running on your computer. If you do, not only will the browser automatically close on its own, but the game, well, expect some not so settling changes to happen. What do I mean by changes? Changes such as all the stages transitioning into blue and black, the music that I'm using right now playing in each and every single one of them, and these red ghosts randomly attacking and intervening you while you're playing the game, thus rendering it unplayable. What you have done was activated a DRM. These tools are a set of access control technologies for restricting the use of proprietary hardware of copyrighted works. Now you're thinking, this is some creepy bullshit, and you want to delete this game immediately. Uninstalling it, ironically, well, that's bad idea number 2, especially with the DRM activation. You'll pretty much fail at uninstalling the game, and the second you check it out one more time, it comes up with an even more dangerous method. And that's this. Here we go! Not only will you be met with the inability to pause the game during gameplay, followed by the equally more disturbing music from the US Sonic CD and the red grit effect to the screen and eyeballs coming to kill you, and if they touch you, it's a game over. But you'll also discover a majority of your personal information has been stolen and given to the creator. So basically, this game has updated into a Trojan malware, hacking all of your information and making sure your computer will meet its grisly end. This shit was done on purpose. And why was this bullshit invented in the game? Well, let me tell you. The developer of this game thought it'd be a good idea to make something so evil like this over the fact that people have exposed him for ripping off of sprites from an existing popular game and putting it in his after he tried to claim that the sprites belonged to him. Apparently, people have extracted his game and posted some of the things on the internet. This man was criticized for claiming his ripped off sprites, and his response was to cybernetically attack his audience? Y'all can tell me right now that the indie developers before this one that I put on the list were horrible, but nothing is compared to this sorry excuse of a person for using the game to hack into other people's information to blacklist them to the point where they have to come to you in person to apologize to save their computer? It's good riddance that this game was later removed, followed by his permanent ban from all Sonic fan game expos. You better be grateful the FBI didn't burst down his damn door the second someone discovered this. And so that concludes my list. Now, understand it's a mixture between my opinions and whatever information I collected to make this video. Some of the information I gathered came across as like pretty little, and it's been 3 months since I originally recorded this. The first month I finished recording with a crappy microphone, and she noticed a change of volume as the video progresses. The second half was the second recording and gathering all the information as to which I was supposed to do with my dumb ass, and the third was the going back to the resource to credit. So some things like Yandere Dev's final feature before Osana's update and the information of Ryan Stevens has been discovered as of recently. Here's still hoping that Yandere Dev keeps his word when he finally publishes Osana, so I'm taking that as good news. Even still, he almost has like a very long way to go. We just hope that he doesn't call it quits after Osana's been published like how a lot of people have rumored. Now you notice that I'm not much of a good speaker, as I have to rely on a script or my throwback scenarios to rely on how I talk. Not to mention how much I stuttered a lot, especially at the beginning. But go easy on me, it's hard enough for me to pick up what I really want to say, following by how long it took for me to edit everything. And yes, I'm aware there's gonna be some people who'll find this video who will try to either like defend the behavior of the developers or even give me some corrections or updates. You also notice that I didn't put much proof or information. Well, to tell you the truth, I kind of regret not making this list sooner, because in most of these people on the list, there was like a lot of information that ended up getting removed almost immediately. So it was hell trying to find at least a small portion of that proof, and I had to use my memory. Other than that, this was my first and possibly only list video, unless I got some other things in mind. The reason why I made this video in the first place was maybe for some educational purposes. If not to cater to potential or future developers, it's definitely to cater to me. Kind of like my own rule set to what to and what not to do when it comes to projects and reacceptions to your audiences. The rules? It's okay to block trolls and bashers, but do not use that energy on critics and panners. These are the people who are not here to actually hurt you, they're actually here to help you. Treat it like it's a flu shot. It'll hurt like hell, but it'll make you better in the future. Kind of like how Scott Cawthon took it with his game, which resulted to the creation of his best work. Don't try to sue people who give you negative reception either. You come across as a sensitive asshole, and your reputation flops from the get-go. If you're gonna asset flip, make sure your game is free or is simply a test run so you can change it later. Because there's no reason for you to just simply sell a product that you bought yourself. The only thing you made is the idea. The least you could do is hire a professional to make something for you as long as you give credit. Speaking of credit, do not steal. Even if it's a sandbox test run, please. Plagiarism just takes away the hard work of other people, and that's already annoying if illegal wasn't enough to explain it. Put some love and effort in your projects. Which is obvious. Don't be a greedy bastard and slap some BS for the sake of making money. This is connected to scam, and if you think scamming is okay, you're messed in the head. If you need help, just say it. It's hard to find help, but if you're that desperate, there are many ways you can collect yourself some backers. Once you got backers, unless they're really assholes, don't burn the bridge on them. They're trying to help you and support you, and they're putting their souls into accomplishing your goals. They don't deserve horrible treatment. And finally, don't put a damn malware into your audience's computers intentionally. You're a big asshole and you're way beyond irredeemable if you pull this stunt. If you do something wrong in the past or present, either you move on from it, address it and apologize and promise to never do it again, and don't let it keep you down. We all make mistakes once in a while, and some people are not going to forgive you. I get it. I know through personal experience. And if you get extreme backlash, get the hell off the internet. Do yourself a favor and get some fresh air. Try to take a break before you get yourself an anxiety attack or suffer PTSD or depression. Try to get some therapy while you're at it. Once the air is clear, you'll keep your head up and you move on. And that's it. My moral of the story. I'm going to be finishing up my comic book series as soon as this coronavirus and George Floyd protest clears away. 2020 has been a little Hades for me since it's gonna be even more harder starting my career. But right now, I'm focusing on game development and video making while this whole thing blows over. So yeah, I'm keeping myself busy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you dislike, that's cool. If you like, I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. You all be safe. Lunar Spawn, signing out.